continuing today. In our discussion, we found out that the National Commission on Culture is actually the body supposed to implement or execute the cultural policy. But the policy and the UNESCO's 2022 reports on culture and the creative industries, they highlight the need to integrate culture and arts in sustainable development framework. But how are we doing in terms of our activities in Ghana? How is Ghana's culture influencing national development? Well, I have with me today some great people who matter in the world of culture discussion. I have Nana Otuo Owoahene Champon. He's the Nkabom Hene of Kwewu, of Kumewu traditional area in the Asante region, and also the chairman of the Ghana Cultural Forum. Then I have Richardson Commey. He's the director in charge of policy and planning, research, monitoring, and evaluation of the National Commission on Culture. Then I have my brother, poet. He's poet and no, he's not playwright. Poet and literary coach. Poet and literary coach, Nana Asase, Philip Dua Oyinka. Philip Dua Oyinka. They're here today to help us with this discussion. So we have with us all these great personalities. We have Richardson Commey. Yeah, I saw the ISL. Richardson Commey, Director of Policy Planning, Research, Monitoring, and Evaluation at the National Commission on Culture. They are joining us this afternoon for this discussion. Let me say good afternoon to them. Hello, sirs.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Nana, we are back.
Yes, we are back. Good to come back.
Yeah, so we have two Nanas here. We have Nana Sase and we have Nana Otuo Owoahene Champon. Yes, sir. Now let me start the conversation like this. We're talking about how we can use culture to influence national discussion or national development. Nana Otuo, last week we started something. I want us to continue. Do you think that Ghana as a country, we're using our culture to help in national development?
Thank you very much, Kwame, and good afternoon to your discerning listeners. Great to be back. What we started 2 weeks ago, and it was a great discussion, and I'm happy that Joy still want us to discuss that, to progress our conversation. Culture is our life. Culture is the strength of any economy, any country. Is the bloodline of society. So without culture, it becomes a bit difficult for you to get yourself situated and identify yourself. It's culture that gives us identity, and then to let people know who you are in terms of everything, and I mean everything that you do. In our system, I believe that we have tried. Let me put it this way: is somebody trying to pretend that he's working, and then the employer to pretend he's paying. So that kind of game is there. But as a country, our first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, tried to ensure that culture, arts and culture, is mainstreamed in national development. But beyond that, I don't think we have not grown that much. But I believe what we have come to see, we have not been able to build it up such that we can be proud of what we're doing. At the end of the day, what do we see in our system, in our schools, our curriculum? the training, our values, our ethics, the youth that are coming. I was listening to you, the look-alike stuff here and there and all that. Culturally, you cannot do that. You become an imposter, that pretending to be who you are not, reaping where you have not sown. It's culture, and it is not right. That is not how we were brought up. That is not how we were trained. So I think that there's something fundamentally wrong that we, as a nation, we need to get back to the table. And I'm so happy that Joy is having this conversation, and I believe we will push it up to a level that it becomes a national conversation.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Commey. Mr. Commey, same question. Do you think we've done well as a country in making culture influence national development?
Kwame, thank you very much, and let me say good afternoon to your listeners. I might say that we have performed averagely in terms of how culture is supposed to be situated within our developmental agenda. Right from what Nana said about the agenda of the first president right after independence, which Nkrumah called the African Personality Agenda, that he started that we need to get rid of the influences we had from colonialism and to be able to think as Ghanaians and Africans and do things properly as Ghanaians. He started both statutory and in-statutory policy implementation strategies that gave birth to the establishment of the Institute of African Studies in the University of Ghana to specifically look at researching into our culture and look at how culture could be transferred from one generation to another informally and formally, within the educational curriculum development and all that. And a lot of other institutions were established afterwards. Now, Nkrumah also changed the then British Art Council to Art Council of Ghana and all that, and started working to make sure that informally we are able to imbibe within ourselves what really makes us Ghanaians. But unfortunately, along the line, there was a coup d'etat, and right after that, that our history has experienced a lot of intermittent coup d'etats, which affected the agenda, that agenda of placing culture at the center of our development. Mind you, the media was a key partner in this agenda. And when you look at the intermittent military interruptions that happened and all that, the media was a target. And so I always say that the evolution of the media to help even in the campaign for culture to be placed at the center of Ghana's development was interrupted. And I could dare say that till now, the media has not been able to get up on its feet when it comes to the cultural agenda. But I'm so happy that Joy, for some time, has been very, very particular and very concerned about the role culture could play in our national development. So we have not done so well. For now, we have the National Commission on Culture. We have ministries that were set up in the past, from Ministry of Education and Culture to Ministry of Chieftaincy and Culture, Ministry of Culture and Creative Art. We have Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture now. And then we also have a lot of transitions that had also happened from the Art Council of Ghana to the Institute of Arts and Culture. And then we now have the National Commission on Culture and all that. So we've gone through a lot of processes. And then, of course, in 2004, there was a promulgation of the cultural policy of Ghana, which also started around the early 1980s, right? With the Shedu Yenchis, Ben Abdallah came to take up And then
took so many years.
Yes, so many. It took so many years even to get the document assented by any of the president. Mind you, within all these periods, we were in a military regime.
Yeah.
Right? And so it tells you that there was a particular agenda that was not really favoring culture that much. Right? So after 1992, 1993, when we were in civilian rule, that was when a lot of things started picking up again. We had the establishment of the National Theatre. We have the regional centers for national culture springing up. We had the Pan-African Historical Theatre Festival, Pan-African and Emancipation, hosted by Ghana, in 1992 and all that. So a lot of things started picking up again from 1992, 1993. And then Professor Hagan's time at the commission, that was when finally we were able to have a document to say this is a cultural policy guideline for the country that we were supposed to look at it. And of course, the policy, no matter how we can talk about it, about the weaknesses and all that, was able to identify all the key stakeholders in our development and what they must do in terms of consideration of culture in their plan. But I must say that we haven't done so much well in considering... I was
coming to ask that question.
Yes. Yes. So what has health done in terms of considering culture in
so we will come to the policy.
All that.
We'll come to the policy.
Okay.
Yeah, so still here on Showbiz A to Z on Joy 99.7 FM. You can send your messages right now. Do you think that Ghana's culture has been able to influence national development? Send us a message right now on 055-111-997. Nana Asase is a poet, and he's also a lover of culture, Ghanaian culture for that matter. Nana, do you think we've paid attention that much to culture as Ghanaians?
All right, Kwame, I was going to put you in a bit of a corner.
Don't do that.
Because when you talk about culture, then you are talking about a very broad sphere. So I was asking somebody, what culture are we talking about?
Ghanaian culture.
What is Ghanaian culture? Ghana is made up of different bodies, different peoples from different backgrounds. There's this high school culture. There's there's our music culture. There's different facets of it. But I believe that my bosses here have spoken about the technical bits of it. Now let me take you to Agroni from Mubika, the very practical
Let's
bits
go.
of it. Okay. So I believe that as a people, some communities have really held on to things like sanitation. If you take a ride up hills from Kitasi going up, you know that the traditional authority is really still felt. In some communities where the traditional authority is really felt, sanitation is a thing that is really upheld.
Sure.
Because when you are summoned to the chief's palace, see, it's a very urgent matter. When you go to court and you have money, but when you're summoned to the chief's palace, look, it's a very urgent issue. I feel some communities have been able to preserve the purity of this, but on the whole as a country, I feel we've not really done enough, to promote what is really ours. It's good to note that currently there's a drive, getting people now to study the mother tongue, people trying to express themselves in their mother tongue and all of it. I believe music has played a critical role. And so beyond the technical bits, I'm bringing you down into the practicalities of, in terms of artistic practice. Music has played a very critical role. Sarkodie, the likes, they've done fantastic. The high life greats, coming down the line, they've done fantastic in singing in our mother tongues. The likes of Atungo Zimba, the likes of King Aisuba, the likes of, what's her name? Oh, Lioness. Uyala. Do you get my point? So in that wise, I think the arts have been a creative force, a driving force in the promotion of Ghanaian culture. In the area of fashion, we've got people who have done fantastic work. Kwame Banfo is a visual artist, right? People who are into the visual arts have done a lot of work to ensure that our Ghanaian culture, for what it is, has been passed on, or it's still alive, very much alive. Ibrahim Mahama is doing his best, up north. Chief Momen is doing stage work.
Yeah.
People are taking up poetry. There are a lot of traditional troops, dance, drum troops, all across the nation. Notable among them, let me mention Ayiko Drum. Ayiko Drummers took Ghana's, traditional drumming all over the place, even at the Montreux Jazz Festival, which is one of the biggest things in the world of jazz. So a lot of people have done work, but as a nation, it will come down to the policy again. Because if the policy framework is there, you realize that there's a proper structure, proper organized structure. Otherwise, in very small pockets, people are trying to push in their very best. But the policy will ensure that we know, well, this is something worth living for. Ghana becomes a place worth dying for, knowing that we're pushing a common cause. The structures are in place. Otherwise, we'll be in trouble.
All right. Mr. Commey, let me come to you. You are the National Commission on Culture, and you are in charge of research, planning, monitoring, and evaluation, right? What exactly do you do?
All right. So, I mean, just like the concept spell out.
Break it down for us. It's plenty.
Yes, plenty. Right. So the first is that the ministry is tourism, arts, and culture. And so the ministry is supposed to formulate policies for government. And when it comes to the aspect of culture, it is the National Commission on Culture that feeds the ministry with content and the advice on issues on culture. And so it is my directorate that is specifically responsible for providing whatever information in terms of policy advice to the ministry. I work on that. Then also we're supposed to engage in research, both internally and then externally. Not long ago, we issued an article on TikTok, the effect of TikTok on our culture. And
you did?
Yes. And we.
Why didn't I see it?
Well,
Is it that your PR team is weak, or?
Yeah, well, I mean that should be for another discussion.
It can't be for another discussion.
It was published by Graphic Showbiz.
You gave it to some selected media houses.
Well, you are actually
Okay.
so. Yeah. So it was about 6 months of exercise that we did, looking at a lot of videos that are trending on TikTok. A lot of people who are influencers in the area, and the kind of videos that they are doing, the kind of videos young people are doing, and whether when you look at the original rules, community rules around TikTok, whether these people even qualify in terms of age to have access to the app and all those things, right? So these are some of the research that we're so supposed to do to serve as a watchdog to all the influences that our culture is having, and the exchange that our culture is also having with other cultures. And the monitoring and evaluation part.
No, so what was the outcome of that research?
Yes,
the general outcome?
well, we realized that the trend is sadly changing. We are having a lot of negativity, very bad content, if we can put it that way. A lot of, especially a lot of young women and girls now using TikTok only to twerk, show some bodily parts that they are not supposed to show, and some kind of unsavory comment that they use TikTok to make, and all that. So we realized that the trend isn't too good for the young people, and we were able to also look at it and see that it is even what is emboldening some of the things. Remember, Kwame, that not long ago there were some senior high school girls who recorded themselves insulting the president of Ghana.
Yes.
And GS had to come in, and the president said, the punishment is harsh and all that. And realized that all these are influences from some of these videos they see. Because if you can say anything on TikTok and you don't get any punishing you, why wouldn't a senior high school student also see it as a means of recording herself and to say anything to the president of Ghana, right?
Yeah.
So we think that there are a lot of good things, a lot of good people are using TikTok and other media platforms social media platforms very well. I've been reading a lot from your wall on Facebook, you know, and all that. And so there are a lot of good things that we can do there. And we need to really, really discourage people from using these social media platforms wrongly, and even be careful of the tag we are putting on people. And now everybody is a celebrity, okay? No matter what you do, and so even as a country, we need to be discussing this in our contest. Who is a Ghanaian celebrity? I don't think that the fact that you're popular and you have following, no matter what we are putting there, whether it is good for our culture or not, you should be celebrated.
But Mr. Commey, I'm interested in that research that you did.
Okay.
Because if you tell me you had an outcome, you're also in charge of policy planning.
Yeah.
What policy have you put in place to check this?
Yes. Kwame, you know that policy formulation is not a one-day thing. It goes through a lot of
Have you made any proposals?
Of course. I mean,
what's in that? We want to know.
We've made a proposal to the current team that is working on the new cultural policy, for instance, that we need a clear guide on our media and cyberspace in this country. We really need a clear guide, as South Africa and other countries in Africa are doing. Okay, we need a very good and robust digital space that will be able to make sure that if I pick a phone, if my father buys me a phone, and there's the need for me to input my particulars, my name, my date of birth, and everything in there, directly, automatically, I should be restricted from certain site based on the kind of age I put there. Right?
Okay.
And I think it's done in other jurisdictions. So you could see young people with iPhones and all that. Perhaps it is only game they are playing with it. Because there are certain sites you may not get access to because of certain content.
So it's part of your recommendation?
Yes, it's part of our recommendation that we need it. In fact, even within the broadcasting space, you remember some time ago, we had a lot of people calling themselves priests and priestesses who say they can double monies and they were on TV. Okay? But if you go into our cultural system, traditional priestess and priestesses do not double money. These are people who are epitome and custodians of our culture and traditions, and they believe in hard work and dignity. But we have a media space that is allowed to give airtime to these people to call themselves traditional priests and priestesses and say they will double money for you. So we think that we need a very clear direction in terms of media broadcast and how we use our social media.
We'll come back to you again.
All right.
Because you are the policy maker here, the planner here. You do everything. You research, you monitor, and everything. We come back to you. We have in the studio Ken Addy, Uncle Ken, who is a broadcaster, also right here with us, and then Kwame Rasta. Yeah, my brethren here upon the studio, and and then Chief Mumen, who is also a poet and playwright. They are also right here. We're talking about how we can use culture to influence national development. We started this 2 weeks ago, and we're here again. Nana Otuo Owoahene Echampon is the chairman of the Cultural Forum, right? Nana, how do we use culture to set an agenda for the country? Because we always hear about America using films and all that to shape people's mindset about their country. Are we doing that as a country? Can we do that?
Thank you. Yes, we can do that. I strongly believe that. And all sectors and stakeholders need to come together to set that agenda. And we have the National Commission on Culture here. And I believe that they should be the coordinators to coordinate.
Mr. Commey, you are dead today.
To coordinate everything that we're doing. So, one, stakeholders should be able to come together to set this agenda. Stakeholders from various domains, the visual artists, music, and everybody, heritage and all that, so that when we are able to gather, for instance, the current policy that's under review, a lot is going into it and is looking at all the various domains and sectors within our space and in terms of culture, and every stakeholder is bringing on board specifics to the table. So when you're able to put them together, I believe that there should be a clear direction that will influence our culture as a nation, and that will translate into mainstreaming our culture into our national development.
I know there is a review going on the culture policy. It's taking how many years?
I don't remember.
Mr. Commey,
Yeah, Kwame.
why has it kept that long?
Well, if you ask me as a policy expert, I'll tell you that, I mean, for the first time, it should have taken just 5 years of the implementation of the policy to go back for review, right? And so within 2004 and 2009, the policy, by 2009, we should have had a review of the policy. But as we speak, we are still reviewing it, and it also tells you about the political will and commitment in our cultural space, not only for this current government, but all governments, after Nkrumah, and how they have paid attention to culture. When you look at even the current policy, the 2004 one that we are reviewing, it was not sponsored by the state, actually.
Who sponsored it?
Right? It was a German foundation that funded the yes,
The policy.
yes, the policy,
So-
right? So as we speak, we are being supported by a World Bank project or something to work on the policy now, right? So it tells you right from the word go. Okay, let me give you an example.
I have a question. You finish with this one.
I just completed my PhD.
Okay.
I was telling Philip.
Congrats.
And I was saying that I had a scholarship to do this. It was a bilateral thing with Ghana and Germany.
Okay.
Right, and it tells you how much the so-called developed world are even investing in culture.
Culture, yeah.
That they believe that the fact that they're even giving you access as a scholar to go into their country to study and all that, there are a lot of research and other assignment that you are given to do, and by that they get the African and Ghanaian perspective of whatever issue that is on board, and it helps in developing their society better, right? And so it tells you that when it comes to culture, as a country, we need not to be relying on Western support,
Yes.
because that is fundamentally where your right and identity
Because they can
be
influence
targeted.
the policy.
Exactly, right? And so we are now talking about LGBTQ plus and all that.
And we're seeking sponsorship from them.
Okay, and so can the cultural policy today be very clear on the Ghanaian cultural stand and position on something like LGBTQ, for instance?
Nana, you are the chairman of the forum, right?
Yeah.
Cultural Forum. I'll come to you, but before that, let me invite Uncle Ken Addy into this. Uncle, so we have a policy that is being sponsored by, foreign powers. Do you think this can have an effect on the outcome of the policy?
Of course it can. Kwame, before I delve into this matter, let me say good afternoon to all the folks here.
Yeah, good afternoon.
I've never met
Mr.
Nana
Commey.
Champong.
Okay.
And but Mr. Asase there,
Oh no, yet in the
and I was even more surprised when I met him at my uncle's 90th birthday
Wow.
party, and realized he was more family than
Wow.
just anything, I've been very intrigued and especially by the last comment by
Mr. Commey.
yes, when he mentioned how long the policy has been from 2004 or something to that effect. And I asked myself, wow, why is it taking that long? Look, almost all our policies take that length of time. Look at the film bill that was passed into law. It took over 20 years for that bill to be passed into law. And it's no surprise this is also taking that length of time, and is being sponsored by foreigners. That is the key. Why are we not sponsoring our own policies? If we want to make our policies targeted at our development without any influence from outside, why are we not sponsoring our own policies? It's because we don't take them, we are not serious about such issues. I find it so intriguing that an outsider has to fund
A cultural policy.
a cultural policy. And I came here today because I've just come from a funeral of my cousin. I was very interested in this topic to come and learn. So I just got home, had a little shower, and rushed here because I want to learn from these folks who are here in the studio today, because they can explain the issues to me. And the little I've heard so far, shows me that I have so much to learn
Yeah.
from this topic. When Philip called me and told me about this topic, I said, wow, we started it 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks
And
ago,
last week, I remember asking him, why are we not continuing the topic like he said we were going to? And he said, oh, don't worry, I've got the people coming today. So I said to him, I have a funeral, but I'll come and learn, because it's a very serious issue. And you folks, Kwame Dadzie, and a few other people have always, Kojo Preko Dankwa and co, have been going on about this cultural policy.
Folk yeah.
On the, on for ages. And I find it, no, I don't think we want one. Seriously,
we would have had
We
one
want,
now.
we want.
I
we
seriously don't think we want one. Because
Why?
why?
We want one.
Why?
We want fun.
I'll come back to you, Mr. Commey and Nana. But let me come to Kwame Rasta. Kwame Rasta, we were just talking about how we can use culture to set agenda, for the nation. And then it came up that we are being sponsored, as in the cultural policy. We are getting funding from foreign powers. Is that a big deal?
I do not see it as a big deal.
Kwame,
Yes, sir.
yeah. Just before I forget, Kwame Dadzie,
Yes.
a few years ago, Philip Nye here will tell you, our producer will tell you that Mr. Chikata, who was with the World Bank,
Yeah.
invited us to a seminar.
Okay.
Philip, where was it held? I can't, one of the he invited us to a seminar on this cultural policy. Mr. Amatefio was there. A lot of people were there to discuss this thing, and this is about 5, 6, 7 years ago. That's when Mamavi was hosting this show.
Wow.
We were invited to deliberate on the cultural policy. And that's why I'm saying that I don't think we need one, because we've gone through all this with funding from the World Bank and other institutions, and we are still where we are. Thank you. Kwame
Rasta.
Okay. So, thank you very much, Uncle Ken, for the reminder that the World Bank have also doled out some support. It's not a big deal at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually think that personally, I am so much. Uncle Ken is intrigued. I am proud of the German state, the German nation, for little mercies or this big deal. Listen, if not the Germans who would have, pulled up to sponsor Little Ghana's cultural policy, yeah, we should be grateful, because from the look of things, but for the Germans, since 2004, nothing would have been happening, And on the personal level, I was born in Hamburg, and last year when I went to Europe, I was praying that I would be adopted on a very large scale, so that because if the whole state is sponsoring all of you guys here on your culture, your culture, why not me? Just start from me, so that I can be wishing you all the best from far away. Because listen, on a larger scale, there's, like Uncle Ken says, we don't want it. We are not serious. We don't need anybody to come and set up a research lab and expose the whatever virus it is that is making us not be able to have that document, and let alone get to implementation. Because if we were serious people with regards to our cultural policy, which is supposed to be adhered to, even in our basic schools, there would have been something which is in full motion, so that kids of today, listen, culture is not static, it evolves. There are certain norms or certain tenets that we are aware is evidently a Ghanaian thing or a Ghanaian cultural thing, and throughout post-independence up until now, or even post the coup eras, it is once you come across a foreigner based on that trait or that attitude, it exposes you as a Ghanaian. It is part of your culture as a Ghanaian. Now, there's Dr. Commey here, who is not, he's a very serious guy, and that's the reason he donates the time and effort to spearhead this whole thing, or
Sure.
in whatever capacity it is geared towards getting our policy right. Kwame, we've not even got into implementation. This is not a bill or an act.
It's a policy.
Policy is different. Let's not confuse the two. Listen, at a point in time, former President Kufuor decided, or it was during his tenure of office, that wearing Friday wear.
The Friday wear.
What did it take for him? It was just him. It was an address to the nation, right? Yeah, it didn't take a sponsor from. If there were any sponsor, maybe whoever fed him that day, or leading up to him making that proclamation. That's policy right there. And today, it's the ripple effects of any such move is local dressmaking. Batik and all these people, it's informed their fortunes economically. So it's not just about the pride with wearing local fabrics and whatnot. It's every bit of your culture could be transformed in other spheres of life. Religion, sports, entertainment, and we have serious people who have sat, but for the German state sponsoring it, they don't sponsor with like prayers or well-wishing messages. It is a lot of money. Do you understand? Plus more. So I'm citing one cultural policy that was initiated by former President Kufuor, for instance. Okay. And from my standpoint, very layman's point of view, it didn't take a crowd of chiefs or intellectuals to set that in motion, which today we still do it unconsciously. Corporate Ghana, banks, they wear the kaba and slit, and it's nice. But beyond that, it informs the pockets of local dressmaking and whatnot. So if there are other areas that today, he's mentioned TikTok, even on the social media front. For instance, if the president decides that, okay, or back today, kids can aspire to want to be influencers.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it wasn't an influencer. It was non-existent. Now, if today influencers decide that every Thursday we're going to wear red, gold, green, or going to wear Ghanaian-made clothes, for instance, it will further propel an industry. If the president decides to, in his address, let's say 1st July, Republic Day, now this is what I want us to do. It wouldn't take an army of intellectuals to brainstorm and finally, or even go and find a sponsor. You know, some of these things are low-hanging fruits that can help. I am aware, to be fair, of a committee. I cited it the last time we started this conversation, made up of people from the creative sector and GES and the educational system who are supposed to come up with a document, a curriculum for arts to be reintroduced in our syllabus in schools. It's currently...
you're part of
Yes,
them?
yes, I'm part of that committee. But the point I'm making is there are efforts being made behind the scenes. But what excuse do we have for having sat from 2004? And even before 2004, what were we doing with our culture? Kwame, a lot of things are basic that should not be a hassle. The gentleman who carved the giant drums at the National Theatre, Mr. Ichampon, we don't know him. Yeah, that's how popular and relevant he is. Now, this man, if you call him today, he's somewhere in Kumasi, to come and give you the story behind how he carved those giant drums. He doesn't want anything to do with it. The man is hurt. Yes, I spoke with him and the one he gave me himself. So there are others who have contributed, who have invented or have set initiatives that could have helped us in our evolution as a people, because every culture is not static.
Okay.
So now, since 2004, there are a lot of things that have been brought to bear on our Ghanaian space, which identifies us, reveals us as Ghanaian, the Black Star people. So if the committee has been sitting throughout that period, some obviously have passed on to eternal glory. I mean, may their soul rest in peace and whatnot. Some have retired. What really is the document? Will it, at the point where it is matured, would it even be applicable? I don't know. But Mr. Commey is here. Maybe he go show me. You know. So again, if media, I think, like Uncle Ken said, we don't really want it. And I am personally, culture or not, working very hard that the next time you'll be talking to me, I'll be a German citizen, because they are even sponsoring our whole culture.
Chief Women.
Yeah.
So do you also agree that we don't necessarily need a document in the form of a policy to make sure that our culture is used to influence society?
Okay, let me also start by saying good afternoon to all the gentlemen in the studio. I mean, this is a topic that is extremely very important to me, that I've been researching for a while now. In fact, I'm actually working on an article.
Wonderful.
Yes. Oh, Uncle Ken, I'm building, you know the way
He's fasting.
I'm building
too, so.
momentum.
He's coming.
He's fasting.
This is the exposition.
He's warming up.
We'll go into the rising action, the climax, and the denouement. Anyway, as I was saying, I mean, this is a topic that I'm very much interested in. In fact, early next year in March, I may have the opportunity to give a major speech, on Ghana's culture, tourism, and art.
Great.
But let me start by saying that Germans funding, our culture policy is not a surprise to me. We've said it on this show that almost any major initiative that has to do with, cultural activities and funding, and the monies don't come from here at all. In fact, at one point in time, I said that I felt Alliance Française has done more for platforming, young Ghanaian artists, and cultural actors, more than the entire Ministry of Culture, Tourism and Creative Arts. Just one small institution somewhere around Opebia has done more in promoting Ghana's culture than the entire ministry. No, it's a comparison I'm making. In terms of platforming opportunities for young performers. That's why I use the term platforming opportunities. The Wallaces, the Wialas, the Manifest, all of them started from those spaces and the opportunities that they had. Cultural exchange programs, funding for cultural activities always come from, abroad. I feel that for our state institutions, the best use of culture is to bring Adwa dancers to dance at the airport to welcome foreign dignitaries. That's what I feel when it comes to the state infrastructure and the state institutions. So that is how important we see. I don't think that our government, and Dr. Commey has even said it, has prioritized the potential of this industry or this sector of our society, apart from Nkrumah. Our finance minister is all over the place looking for concessions just to be able to get a paltry $3 billion from the IMF so that our economy doesn't, collapse. And I'm first arriving at the view that the current economic and political system has completely failed this country. From independence, we've been trying to industrialize. The best person who had the opportunity to achieve that was Nkrumah. Ever since, we have not fundamentally changed the policy direction of this country. It's still natural resource export. We are still dependent on natural resources. We haven't put in the thought or the will to transform our economy to create new values in such a way that we will attract a lot of dividends into our country. So we keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, and if we don't get $3 billion today, our economy will collapse. So the most important point I'm trying to make is that we are not creating new values. And we are not creating new values because we are not thinking outside the box. And we are not taking the risk to open up new opportunities for our country. I personally think, and I've always said this, any opportunity that I have, any government that comes into power and tells me that, I believe that the top earning sectors of our economy are this, maybe the natural resource, the extractive industries, blah, blah, blah. But between the 8 years or so that I have been in power, I have transformed the economy in such a way that arts, culture, and tourism is the number one end of our economy. Then some hard work has happened. Other than that, everyone is riding the wave. When you come, it's what you get from your cocoa, your gold, your oil, and the services industry that is holding your economy. So if we are not able to industrialize, and we will not be able to industrialize because according to the current global economy that we are plugged into, Africa must remain a resource producing continent for the industrialized West and now the East. So there's no way we are going to outperform Germany when it comes to, engineering, outperform China when it comes to manufacturing, outperform, America when it comes to, tech innovation. Maybe tech we can because it's mind for mind, right? But the point I'm trying to make is that because of the current world economic model that we find ourselves, Africa finds ourselves. And what we are trying to do, there is no way that we can ever develop within this world economic model system because we have to remain raw material producing continent for the industrial world. What it means is that if we are going to change our fortunes and change it, massively, then we must begin to think outside the box. What is an example of thinking outside the box? For me, low-hanging fruit. Where do we have our competitive advantage? What can we produce and export that the rest of the world doesn't have? Several areas you can, but as a cultural and and an artist, for me, it is the culture, tourism, and creative industry. I was looking at the report that the Ghana Tourism Authority recently just released, right? Ghana is not even among the top 10 most visited countries in Africa. With all the hype that Ghana has, we are not among the top 10. I don't even think we're up to the top 20. I don't know. Ivory Coast has more traffic than Ghana. I think that in the last report, Ghana was around 900 to 1 million or so. Just around the 1 million mark. Even with all the hype from the year of return, obviously we know that marketing effort will not yield dividend immediately. Yeah. But for me, what we should be thinking of, how do we increase our visitations? For example, that's just one aspect, culture and tourism, right? From 1 million to say 5 million. That should be like a burning desire. The most important element in all of this, in our topic of culture conversation, because the policies are there. For me, it is important. You cannot have a policy but have the will and still make it. But you can have the best policy, but without the will, you will never make it. So we need political leadership that has a will to transform our economy completely in such a way that it appends the current structures and systems that we have and prioritizes industries that we have traditionally not seen. Because when we talk about culture, arts, and tourism, all people think is entertainment. And when people think of entertainment, this is not like something serious. Let's bring them to come and dance Adowa. But when we see that this is an industry, and I hope and I'm reserving my second point for actually the specific of what culture can do in transforming the economy. But for me, the most important thing that I want to mention, without, in fact, let me even narrow it down, without a president who is obsessed with the idea of transforming our economy beyond the traditional sectors, we will continue to have the best policies, we'll have people funding us, we'll have the policies, but we'll never make any direction, any progress.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chief Mumin. Thank you for your submission. We're still here on Showbiz A to Z on Joy 99.7 FM. You can send in your messages right now via 055111997. Tell us, how do you think we can use culture to influence national development? Let me come to you, Mr. Commey. You've heard Kwame Rasta, you've heard Chief Mumin. Anything you want to say to them in all the things they've said so far?
Thank you very much, Kwame. And to start from the fact that I think we need to have some clarity here. The first is that the cultural policy came out in 2004, right?
Yeah.
And since then, we have gone through the implementation stage, and then we are looking at a review. I said that on my part as an expert, I believe that the introduction of a policy like that, looking at the dynamics of our culture and our exchange with other cultures, within the first 5 years, we should have had a review. That was around 2009. We should have had a review. But the good thing is that the policy is under review, right? And talking about funding of other countries and all that. Mind you, even as we were working on this very policy, UNESCO is giving Ghana support.
Okay.
And then the World Bank support. I understand we've had extra information here that is a World Bank facility under the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, and so it is monies that government will pay back sometime to come. So
we went for loans to sponsor our review of our cultural policy.
It is one of the activities under the facility, and not just the cultural policy, right? And then also, Kwame, there are a lot of other multilateral and bilateral relationships that Ghana has with other countries. And for those relationships, it requires that at a certain point there's exchange of support. So Ghana do get support for some of these things through some of these relationships. Our interest as public servants and technocrats in this area is that we are looking out for a time where, as my brother is saying, we are going to gather our own resources internally to fund such a process.
You're looking forward to that time?
Yes, because I think that, because you see, this World Bank facility that we were talking about, it doesn't have only this cultural policy, it has other things. And it tells you that even if you are not going to have direct condition that affects your culture, it has other conditionalities that affect other sectors of the country and the economy, right? And so it means that as a country we'll be safe if we are able to internally mobilize resources to address something like the review of the culture policy.
Doc, but
the clarity is that the clarity is that we are paying for the money that World Bank is giving us to facilitate the review.
Doc, please, how much is the money? Do you know?
No.
But what about the UNESCO grant?
I cannot,
because I know that there's one of them that's around $100,000, for the review.
We'll find out.
I cannot do that because this is a facilitation.
And I'm just trying to put perspective. The amount of money actually involved, the amount of money actually involved in that review is not actually money.
Okay.
Looking at government expenditure, that's like the cost of one V8. That's true. That's true. That's about. I mean, because it's not like millions of dollars. It's just a few hundreds or even less.
Yes.
You know. So I just want to put things in context for us to see
And
where we're
if
talking
you're
about.
angry, cry, you can sign a check right
Charlie,
now.
Charlie.
Yes. Yeah. So,
Mr. Kwame.
yeah. So that is it. But from what we're saying about low-hanging fruit policies that comes out of declarations and state addresses and all that, fine. But you see, because we are in a globalized space, we need to be guided. And of course, in all sectors of our society, there are unstatutory policies. And so as we are working with this policy, we are very much aware. I mean, who really instructed the media to start Heritage Month and Ghana Month and all that, and strictly go typically Ghanaian, promoting our music, promoting our food, promoting our festivals and all those things, right? It did not come from any documented law to the media, right? So we are very much aware of the unstatutory policies that political leaders could be able to lead the country, to be able to tap from.
Okay.
But because there are also conventions, okay, that Ghana is not living in isolation. We are with ECOWAS, we are with AU, we are with UN, and because of that, there are certain conventions that as a member state we need to also follow, and one of such is that we need to have a policy. And so as we go about tapping into all these low-hanging fruit, we must still be guided that at a point we need to have a document to tell us where actually are we going.
Okay.
I mean, how do you really assess yourself if you have not even documented what you are doing?
Still about funding. How is the National Commission on Culture, how is it funded?
Well,
Nana is laughing. Nana, I'll come back to you, don't worry.
well, the National Commission on Culture, just that like every public institution, is mainly funded by government of Ghana.
Okay.
Right? And when you talk about the commission, it is instructive to note that it also covers 16 regional centers of national culture and over 200 district centers for national culture across the country. Right? So the Kumasi Center for National Culture and the districts around the Ashanti region, when you go to Cape Coast, the CNC and the districts and all that, they are all Commission on Culture. Right? And so we are supposed to draw the higher amount of our funding to do our work from government of Ghana.
Okay.
And then also a part from internally generated funds. Because we have, when you go to Kumasi, for example, we have a lot of facilities where people rent for programs.
Okay.
We also have studios. Okay, we have artists.
You have studios,
Yes.
as in performance studios? Or
Yes,
Photo
yes.
studios.
Okay,
Or
yes.
photo studios?
Yes. We have performance studios.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. And so we have employees who are into bead craft, who are into carving, who are into ceramics and all that. And they do all these things to generate funds also for the centers. And so part of government of Ghana support, and then from IGF, and of course from donors and other sponsors that we get. But because these facilities are not equally distributed across the country, in some places they don't have a facility at all. They just have administrative offices, right? So it means that for them,
Rented offices?
yes, not really rented. Some are housed within the regional coordinating
Okay,
councils.
okay,
Right.
okay.
We don't have any of our centers in
And
any
palaces.
rented office.
Palaces.
No.
Tradi-
No,
No,
we don't have any of our offices in the palace. We don't have. Okay. Right. Okay. So
Yeah.
these centers who do not have such facilities that could generate IGF solely will have to rely on GOG support and then also from sponsorship and donations.
So how often do you get the funding from government? How often do you get that?
Well, I would say since time immemorial. it has not been regular.
Eh?
It has not
What's
been
the meaning of
regular.
that?
Yes, it has not been regular.
Time, man.
It has not been regular. It has not been consistent. So I can even share my MPhil thesis with you. What I did a typical study of funding of the regional centers.
Okay.
Between the period of 2003 to 2007, and it gives you the proposed budget from the centers, and then the approved amount that government wishes to give. Okay. And then the actuals that were really paid to the centers.
Sweet.
So you are able to tell that this is the vision of the commission and the centers, that if we should get this amount of support, and the budget also requires that even in that budget line, you need to indicate a percentage you are targeting from donors and sponsors and all that. So there's a clear percentage of GOG, what you expect from government. And then government will communicate to you how much it can pay from your budget. And then at the end of the year, you were able to record the actuals, whether you received what government approved or not.
Wow.
And in some cases, it is even zero the whole year. And I always want to add that I don't want us to say this in a way that means that it is only this government that must be
well, it is this government that is in power.
Okay.
But, so when was the last time you had any money from the government?
That was just about 2 weeks ago. But it's even in the system. Now we run what we call the gift mix system. So
how much was that?
Kwame, I need to give you the figure later.
Yeah,
I need to give you the.
No. So the last time you were on air.
It is money released for January to March.
Okay.
Okay, so we have already spent
like
January to March, and now that is we have now received money for January to March.
Okay.
It's
For
in the
activities
system.
or compensation.
Come again.
For activities.
No, for goods and they call it goods and services.
So it's not even for like major project, like just to
Yes,
sustain.
yes,
yeah.
yes.
But you can't
to
mention the amount.
get stationery,
You can't
Get
quote the amount.
stationery.
and all those.
So even
things.
that means the money that you actually need for project itself. Yeah,
No.
Let me come to Nana Otuo Owoahene Champon. Last 2 weeks, you told us about the fact that there was a particular quarter that the NCC had 3,000 Ghana cedis.
Yeah, I remember.
And Mr. Commey, you're laughing. And that's
remember
true,
that.
right? Is it true?
Oh, if we have recorded zero before,
That's the point.
we have recorded zero before
So 3,000 there's
a
not
whole year.
Upgrade.
So if he tells you at a point we received 3,000, we should even thank our stars. We have recorded zero before a whole year, and I have the data here. I can share with you.
Which year, please?
Okay, I said from 2003 to 2007. That was when I did my MPhil.
Okay.
And I did that study. We recorded zeros in some years.
So how are you able to go about your activities?
Yeah. So basically, as I said, some of the centers have.
So you get more money from those
So we
centers.
get some
more
yeah,
money.
Not more money.
Enough money.
Because that area to come in, that to what happens there is that when you generate 10 cedis as a state institution like the Center for National Culture, you're supposed to pay 66% of that money to government consolidated fund. And then you'll be left with 33%. Now it tells you that if Kwame, if you come to use the CNC Center for National Culture hall in Cape Coast for your wedding,
Yeah.
and you paid 100 cedis,
Okay.
we are to pay 66
cedis.
to government consolidated fund, and then the 33 that is left, we need to pay the power you used from it, pay the water you use from it. If there are wear and tear, and then we need to pray we can get surplus from that. That is when we can now use to even organize a program.
And that's where I was coming
what
to,
you're saying.
right? So there's literally nothing left to organize anything, to platform anybody.
So the IGF is not 100%.
Yeah.
That if you come and you pay 100 cedis, the 100 cedis is for us to just take utility from it and then we spend
All
it
right.
small.
So, Doc, would you agree with me when I say that Alliance Française then platforms more artists than we have the capacity to?
No, the reason is that
Platforms.
despite all these challenges, I mean, when you go to Cape Coast, for instance, at least every year they are able to graduate 500 young people in various vocational skill training programs. Okay, and they do that by soliciting for support, 50 cedis, 20 cedis here, 200 cedis from a fuel station and all that, and they put all these things
That's the cultural center in Cape
together.
Coast.
Yes.
Way to go.
Okay, and they do that, and then also ask the participant to pay 50 cedis for a form, and that's what they use to mobilize the things they are going to use to even teach them, because it's for free. As a state institution, we provide those services for them for free, right? So despite all these challenges, they are able to do something. And it's not only in Cape Coast. When you go to Koforidua CNC, it happens the same way. When you go to Kumasi, when you go to Suyane, it happens. When you go to Tamale, it happens there as well. When you go to Volta region, and the Volta region is known for very good batik, for instance, and regularly they have a lot of people that they train, and they train them from little the support they get from individuals and organizations.
All right, Showbiz A to Z on Joy 99.7 FM, and we're still here talking about how Ghana's culture influences national development. Yes, and so we are having a discussion right now. Let me go to Nana Otuo Owoahene Champon, who is the chairman of the Cultural Forum. Nana, we're moving away from the NCC to your forum. What do you do?
Thank you very much. But before that, from my palette, I was just passing through and I heard that 3,000 I mentioned. So now the man has, delivered the
Actualities on the ground. So I was just passing through. So I'm safe now. Yes. Ghana Culture Forum, a civil society based organization that brings all the stakeholders and players in the creative space together to give ourselves a platform to ventilate whatever issues there are, and then share ideas, visual artists, performers, those into heritage, and so on and so forth. So it's a platform for all the players. As it were, it's a network. So we have various associations, organizations coming together. Though we have the room admitting other individuals who, by their own right, within the space, they can also register as individual members. So established in 2011, a group of people through UNESCO put them together in a workshop to discuss culture in general. So thinking through, after it, people like Professor A.C. Sutherland-Adi, Mr. Akonudake, and the rest, thought that why must we always sit down for somebody to come to organize workshop for us to talk about our own culture and the likes? So we need to do something. So out of that, 2011, the Ghana Culture Forum idea came forth. So from 2012, we started mobilizing the people from concert parties, the musical, the Actors Guild, the visual artists, and everybody to come around for us to discuss for a common goal, a common vision. And so it was launched on the 14th of March. So from that day, we said that the 14th of March every year will be Ghana Culture Day. So we've been celebrating it, and the last 14th March, I think, was the 10th or 11th. The 12th, yes, that we celebrated. So that's what we've been doing. And then our focus is advocacy on policies for the culture space. So as we speak, we have representation on the review of the Ghana culture policy.
Interesting.
Yes, and then giving our inputs and all that. And we are saying that when it is done, we will assess them, go around the country to pick stakeholders' view, and before validations are done and the implementation. Most of the issue is that when it is done, the implementation, popularization becomes another thing. Like we had the 2004 one. It was good, but how many people were aware that we had a policy like that? That has been the issue.
Okay.
So we believe that this time the Ghana Culture Forum is there, and we're working closely with the National Commission on Culture and the ministry.
What have been some of your outstanding achievements?
Ghana Culture Day, one of the key things that every year we bring everybody, the government agency from the ministry. We've had the ministers or the deputy minister coming, other key stakeholders in the fraternity to discuss about key policy areas, advocacy on data, and then having a one-shop stop for all the creatives, so that at the end of the day we will know that this one is doing this here, this one is doing that here. Currently we're working towards the architecture of the entire creative space, so that we know that everybody is placed where, and we work to complement each other. Yes, and one of the things is the policy that we are contributing to.
Okay, so what is your role in this whole High Life, making High Life an intangible heritage by UNESCO thing? What is it about?
Yeah, yes, there are listing various cultural elements on UNESCO. So we thought that the High Life, now Jollof being listed, it's gone to Senegal. So what about Ghana? So Ghana Jollof, what are we doing? Yes, so it's still Ghana Jollof. That one, Dr. Fio will still talk about it because he's done a lot of research and publication on that. So we felt that our High Life is unique, and we need to push it for it to be listed on UNESCO. Yes, so that's why we are pushing all our efforts in there to make sure that it's done. So working closely with the Musicians Union of Ghana.
To the ordinary person listening, what does it mean to have High Life listed as an intangible heritage?
Well, as a country, that would give us some kind of identity, and that will tell the world that Ghana, we also have something as High Life music coming from Ghana, unique, and that will promote us as a people. So I believe that it's not ordinary that we should push this agenda for us to have High Life listed.
And have you had any response from the UNESCO team, as in when we're going to have that listed finally?
Enormous support, and we're working closely with them. And let me say, we are at the final stages. We've put all the documentations together and all that. Nana Otuo here is part of it, so he can even give more information.
Nana, you are part of the folklore board. Yes, you are part of it. How important is it to have High Life as an intangible heritage? And somebody will say, oh, this is just big names. We're just mentioning words, putting words together. Is it going to benefit the country in any way?
I strongly believe that it will benefit Ghana, as a country. When you get on UNESCO's map of intangible cultural heritage, different countries have different things attributed to them.
Okay.
We are not looking at High Life per se, but we're looking at its ways. Can I explain it?
Explain.
Now, when we're looking at intangible cultural heritage, in listing an element, you're not looking at the element per se. We're talking about, say, food or fufu. Imagine we want to list fufu. We're looking at the ways, its preparation. That is what we are looking to list. The things that make fufu complete.
Okay.
The things that make High Life complete. These are the things we are looking to list. You realize that High Life has different nuances. So we need to make sure all these things are documented and attributed to Ghana as a source of origin. Do you get what I'm talking about? People are now talking about royalty issues, copyright issues. We'll clear some of these debates, some of these legalities that are going on with us as a nation. Now, once we are even able to list high life as one of Ghana's intangible cultural heritage, elements, what does it do? It simply means that anybody who is Ghanaian now wants to pick up high life. You brought me to the National Folklore Board. I know you're going to come to.
Don't worry, we're coming.
I know you're coming there. So when you go there, it easily. You know what I mean by there. It makes it easier for Ghanaians to use that art form for whatever purposes they choose to even use it for, and just like I said, it gives us a very unique identity, or it gives even high life its unique identity, because there are different forms of high life. Nigeria has different expressions of, high life.
Yeah.
So in listing intangible cultural heritage, sometimes countries are able to co-list. They come together to list it, and you're asking when. It doesn't take a day. It's actually
Process.
It takes a lot of processing. Trust me. I think we should have time to come and explain how this whole listing process is done. It's not just an instant thing. Work started years ago, and it's almost at its climax. When it's properly done, I think we should come here and have the full conversation on what it took.
Great.
Because it won't take one person, it won't take two people. It's a whole team that works to make this
I
happen.
have qualms about this whole listing of high life as an intangible heritage, because we live in times when people are even drifting from the high life music genre, as in performing them. They are saying that they're Afrobeat artists. They are calling their songs Afrobeats. Are we not losing out on high life if we just base our attention on UNESCO listing, when we could also put together an agenda to really promote high life music? If we get a listing and we don't promote high life, what have we gained?
Bro, but I believe that high life has gained this reemergence. There's a lot of live bands going, a lot of Ghanaian bands going on.
Is high life more visible now
Let me tell
as
you
it used
about
to be
Adaha. Calm
years
down. You've
ago?
not heard Adaha play.
And I've
Go to
heard
Zen
them. I've
Garden
seen them.
tonight. You
I've seen
see
them.
and hear Adaha play proper high life
Are they
music.
visible?
Pardon?
Are they visible?
Very
like
visible,
the
Kwame.
Afrobeats and the Afrobeats that we
We're
are.
talking about high life. High life is a basic or a common denominator for a lot of these things that are coming up. You can't do Afrobeats without talking about high life.
But those who are popularizing our music genres
Fantastic.
are not doing high life music.
You think so?
They don't even.
What is Akwabua doing
They
now?
don't even want to be
Kwame, what is-
linked to the high
calm
life
down.
music.
What is Akwabua doing now?
He does high life,
What is Ochame Kwame doing when he's not rapping?
hip life.
When he's not rapping, what is he doing?
He raps.
Okay. When Bisakeda is on stage, what is he singing?
Bisakede does high life music.
Fantastic.
Kwame Eugene is there. We have Kiddy doing Afrobeat. They all call their songs for Afrobeat.
It does not mean there are people who are not
Afrobeat.
doing high life. It does not rule
But
out.
in numbers,
In numbers,
let's be honest.
Trophy. Look, you can't tie them to just people. There are individuals doing high life. There are bands doing high life. There are people in the background promoting high life. In terms of numbers, we might not have the numbers showing on Twitter, a number of people following this. When you are talking about people who are doing the business of selling
But
the music,
isn't the fact that they're not visible the problem? As visible
where?
as
How? Kwame, you
as
see, there are different
the
layers
dominant-
of there are
yes.
different layers of the audience.
Okay.
There are different layers of the audience. I would dare say wireless music even ventures into high life.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Atungo Zimba.
Nana Sasi,
Are we
please.
visible or not? You see, I feel that sometimes we just discredit ourselves. Gospel music ventures into the realm of high life. What is happening to
Some of
Ghanaian
them. Some of them.
What is happening to Ghanaian music on the African continent? There are some African countries that consume a lot of Ghanaian movies, Ghanaian music, probably more than those of us back here. Look at Ghanaians in the diaspora, Ghanaians in UK, Ghanaians in the States. They are constantly online streaming Ghanaian music or wanting to know what is going on Ghana's.
And the
High
ones
life
up the
is what it
trends
is.
are those that are called
Kwame, Afrobeat
Afrobeats.
is making its rounds, but high life is very much alive.
Mr. Commey.
Yeah, Kwame,
I'll come to you,
I think
Rasta.
that the first thing that I've been thinking about is the fact that we really need to have this conversation even about these genres and whether or not every musician has his or her own way of saying I'm doing this
This or that.
or
This
that.
genre or that. Okay.
So when I come out and say mine is this, you take it as it is, or there's a need for stakeholders to
come together to define.
together to do these definitions, right? what is Afrobeat? What is Afrofusion? What is this? And
Even the Afrobeats, we have one with S and one without an S.
Exactly, and so I think we need this national conversation. But the listing issue has nothing to do with whether the genre is popular or not.
Okay.
Because there are various statuses in terms of the enlistment. You can talk about an asset, an intangible asset that is under threat, okay, or that is on the way of extinction, and all that. And you can also talk about assets that are peculiar to just a community. And so until you go into that community as a Ghanaian, you wouldn't even know it exists, actually. So this conversation shouldn't really be talking about whether high life is now dying or whatever. It is about what we call our heritage, and whether it's just a few people who believe in it or not, or whether it is a community that believes in it or not. If we find it to be credible as part of our values or as part of our practices as Ghanaians, there's a need for us to enlist it.
Okay.
And if we identify that it is under threat, we also have to enlist it under UNESCO's under threat heritage asset also, so that now our stakeholders and other member states will now be asking Ghana more questions as to whether it's not necessary for us to revive and go back in promoting if we are saying this is under threat, or we are going to allow it to, die a natural death. Right.
Okay. Kwame Rasta.
Yes, just to add up to what Doctor has just said, I think that the fortunes or the fast dwindling fate of high life as a genre or as an art form is none of their business, really. Is it a fact that it's a Ghanaian invention? Is it something that is truly Ghanaian that ought to be protected? And if there are corridors within the realms of UNESCO that would better preserve that bit of Ghanaianness, then they have every cause to, pitch it and have it listed there.
Okay.
As to whether today it is in vogue or it is what it is or not, these are not members of the Musicians Union of Ghana. They are not radio presenters.
I was just trying to know how that will benefit the music industry, if you like.
Yeah, but they are not musicians. Go and look for them.
I've shared.
Yes, I'll go into it.
I feel that would give you a better premise
I'll go
for
into it.
a conversation like this. Otherwise, we might use certain technicalities. We might take
for me, I think that even with hip life,
once
it's a Ghanaian thing, and there is an avenue for it to be emboldened or preserved and propelled, whatever it is, which will make it not be another Edinkra symbol which is being exploited out there without any recourse to Ghana. Then we must as well pursue it. So as to even if Afrobeat, somebody sleeps on the job in their country because they are busy with their elections, and then these noble men think that, listen, can you add Afrobeat to it there at UNESCO? So be it, because we've lost.
Musica is really has been an integral. But that's what I was telling you. It's quite an extensive work which has been done. Kwame, and I've sent documents to Kwame. He will be moderating the conversation. I feel that once he has taken a good look at it, we can share it with everybody in here. Once we've taken a look at the document, at least we can. It will set a good premise for us to have.
Yes,
I agree. And for somebody like me who's just getting to know of these noble efforts, I am listening into the conversation. I'm like, no. The bit about the status, its popularity, how it is spreading or not, that's not in any way reflection on the efforts being made to have it listed at. Do you understand? That's a separate conversation. So let's not mix it. Let's rather applaud what they are doing, because it's long overdue anyway. Because and I'm happy you highlighted the different sectors or divisions or aspects of high life. Because when it comes to the genre itself and the rhythms, some of the inventors or persons who put up the rhythms, the bass lines, the Jack Onimo, for instance, and what he brought to bear on it, they are alive. Efforts of noble doctor, what's his name, Collins,
yeah.
and Professor, sorry,
Yeah.
or whatever it is they brought to bear on it could be segmented and listed as indigenously Ghanaian, and it's all to our credit that if we don't have anything today, if we have the Germans having mercy on us sponsoring our policy, at least when it comes
this one is we're receiving some help from UNESCO. UNESCO is doing very good work to help.
Of course,
Ghanaians,
help there we like.
If I sponsor,
And I must say that Ghana Culture Forum is supporting this financially, even financially and everything.
Wow.
And Professor, what you mentioned, Professor John Collins and the rest that he's mentioning, they are in the helm of affairs, putting all these things together.
Yeah.
Yes, and I believe that beyond the listing, it will propel us.
It's very
to
important
work on it, whether it's not popular or not.
Even if nobody was dabbling in that genre today, it didn't matter. Even if it was part of our history, it is worthy and it ought to be there. Because what else do we have anyway?
That's the point.
Yeah.
All right, let me come to chief moment. So, high life has been listed as an intangible heritage, by UNESCO. We are on the way going. What do you think about it? Why are you laughing?
Oh, because I was, in cahoots with your producer. I mean, the guys have said it. I mean, the experts in the studio have talked about high life. If it's a scene, if it is endorsed by UNESCO, I mean, way to go. That's a good thing, right? So, I think that we probably even need a whole discussion on even the role of high life. It's a huge. I mean, if I start my own personal opinions about these things, because culture in itself is not static, right?
Yes,
culture continuously evolves, but must retain some originality. Anyway, so I can go ahead.
It's okay. Joy 99.7 FM Showbiz A to Z. Let me move to Mr. Commey again, and reading the culture policy. The article, is it 11.2? It says that television shall be used to make its programs 70% Ghanaian and 30% foreign. How are we enforcing this?
Great, Kwame. A very good one. I'm very happy this has come up. And I think that when we're discussing about the issue of social media and all that, you asked about the outcome and recommendations of this research on TikTok and others.
Yeah.
And that also connects to this, that the referral, the recommendations that we made referred to this article in this culture policy. But you see, Kwame, one of the key things that this new culture policy is also going to request that government does is to look at the critical areas that could only be implemented with the support of the law. Because when you put something in the policy, it is not law. And until it becomes law, everybody can decide to either do it or not to do it. Right? So this has been in the policy. In fact, even before the 2004 policy, it was a key recommendation of the Art Council of Ghana. It was a key recommendation when the National Commission on Culture began working and all that. And then it found its way into the policy itself. But because it is not backed by any law,
it cannot be enforced.
Yes, how is the Media Commission or the ministry in charge of information and all that going to ensure that broadcasters adhere to 70% local content when there is no law? Right? In the policy itself, we're talking about funding the culture policy and all the issues we're talking about. The fact that the ministry now have to manage a facility that Ghana is going to pay for and all that, to do this and all that. The policy itself identified sources of funding to cultural activities, but it was not backed by law. So the organizations that have been identified there to contribute certain percentages of money and resources to support cultural activists are not doing it
It's not binding.
Yes, you cannot take them on. So these are the critical areas that the new policy is going to look out for. That if we cannot achieve these ones without law, then immediately this policy comes out, we should be looking at legislation to support this aspect of the policy. Else, it will just be advocacy of the commission. Please, let us not do this, or let's do this. You just appeal to the conscience of the people, because there's no law. So that is really the challenge with that article that you've just read. That indeed, in the wisdom of the framers at the time, and so we believe that we need to have that. I was telling you that the media itself has a role in setting the cultural agenda. But the point is that at the point, we did not end this evolution. I mean, the Western media has been very powerful in terms of influencing other cultures with their cultures, because the cycle was completed. I see that the media has a key role here, and if we don't really pay attention to that, all that is going to happen will come back to bite the same media, honestly. So the media needs to really set the agenda, and I don't think we should even wait for a law to be able to do that. Let's see that as a responsibility. Right, I don't know whether we're going to get the opportunity to talk about specific roles that culture could play in certain aspect of development.
We can do that. But,
all right.
But let me go to Uncle Ken before.
All right.
Even before I go to Uncle Ken, let me ask you. So by mentioning television, what was the policy talking about? Is it the nation's, not the national broadcaster or individual private?
Oh,
It was every.
yes.
every. Uncle Ken,
Kwame,
Uncle Ken, you have been in this for so many years.
Kwame, don't come to me. Because I've already told you we are not serious. And from the discussion so far, when you talk of funding, we are not doing anything. You mentioned television,
Yes.
and he has just told you that there's nothing they can do because there's no law. This broadcasting bill has been hanging for so long.
Another hanging policy.
That's why I said don't come to me, because me, I just see that
We don't want it.
we don't want anything. Anchor broadcasting bill, Kwame, that has also been there from God knows how long. To pass a broadcasting bill to show the percentages
Yes.
Of local and foreign content.
local and foreign content,
yes.
we've not been able to do it. So what can we do?
Pray.
What at all can
But
we
in the
do?
absence of that, has the media done well in projecting our culture? If you had to do an assessment of our performance
Oh
so
yes,
far.
as for the media, we will talk. We will raise issues. But when we raise the issues, we are not in any position to implement the issues that we raise. Nana has his finger up. I want him
Nana.
to come in.
Yeah, yes, sir.
The media has been okunfu donfu.
Has it?
Yes. Moko hunu nsuo no osoro ha. Na mo ba ha bebisa se nti hwan na ko hunu nsuo. Na me bisa se wo ko hoko ye. Now, see, we are raising critical issues. It's like pinching your friend pinching tree. It's your young
It's your DM.
You know, you can talk about and they need to policy and blah blah blah. Now, as independent entities, are we able to say that as a say Joy FM says as a station, this is our policy. We are playing this percentage of maybe Ghanaian music versus that of as patriots. Look, forget about the policy which
Yeah.
might not come until this man has attained his German. This
Yes,
German, this
nah,
thing.
yeah.
See,
Hallelujah.
are we able to say, I want to dedicate myself to do this? You know, we can really make it a mark. I always say, if I was in a radio station or a TV station and I had the power to, if you brought your content to me, I'd review it. If it's not proper, sorry, you take it out. Just like the way we were trained with creative writing, because I need to ask Chief. If it's not good, Charlie, if you cancel the whole thing, if you spend good money to print it, it's cancelled out. You need to go back, do it, and bring it back so that it is well done. So if all of us, in even this culture issue, realize, okay, as Ghanaians, these are some of the values we uphold. We do not uphold nudity. And so what is being played on television now, does it pass the mark? If it doesn't pass the mark, please, you take your music video away, you go do it and bring it back until it has passed the mark. And so as practitioners, there are ethics. By virtue of adhering to these ethics alone would go a long way before the policy itself comes to play, comes to pass. So we have a choice over the content. But right now it's just a case of the numbers, it's a case of the what do you call it, mileage and reach and all of that. And so you are doing well in raising the issues and telling us about all the good children we're supposed to be. When you are done, you feed us the alcohol in secret, or you feed us all the Nkolaboni in secret, because Nkolaboni knew you as a child is. Back in the day, when somebody wanted to pick up very good English, they would listen to GTV News, or they would listen to news, saying that the people who are reading the news are giving you a certain level of the language. What is happening now?
Today, no way.
It's a matter of swag. He has a voice, he has this look and all of that. He can be on TV and read the news, which the Brofono Krebi and correct.
No, even the tree news, even that one stuff, we get serious
you know what I'm
diseases
talking
there.
about?
Yo, we are not
so
serious.
if
We for
would
just go
place
out.
emphasis
Kwame,
on language.
thank you.
Kwame, I was going to come to your national
Language.
development thing. Language. What are we doing with language? We are Chinglishing and Ganglishing and mixing our English, our local languages with English. The purity of the language is getting missing. The grammar of it is getting missing. The syntax is getting missing. How are we helping to bring these things back? These are some of the issues we can discuss. As a media, let's create the platforms for some of these conversations.
All
Culture
right.
Forum is doing a lot. So if they had pushed from, say, a media house that says, okay, look, we're giving you space, get into public education with us. Let us talk about some of these relevant issues that really pertain to us. People listen to this show a lot. That's one thing I like. Look, people listen.
Yeah.
Wherever you are in the world.
Discerning people.
Thank you very much.
Discerning listeners.
Serious-minded people
Yeah.
listen to this show, and they learn.
But we don't really need serious-minded people. We need
Sometimes you need
different.
all the.
I said we need different-minded people to listen.
You're right with that.
So and also,
And
in Timpamucho, don't go and throw the water up there and come in.
Kwame, me, I told you, I came.
Take the advice you are giving to the politicians.
I'm in a morning mood, but I came to this show today
To learn.
To learn. And unfortunately, I haven't learned anything.
Wow.
Reason being, the same old things that we've known for years are being raised. And we have not bettered, except for the fact that people are still bent on doing what they think they can do to help the situation. But if he is sitting here telling me that there are zero funds coming in at certain stages, or the funds coming in are not enough to do anything, just to survive, but not implement some of the things they want as policy, then what are we doing? Then what exactly are we doing? This music thing that you mentioned, every time I hear people talk about, percentages of music being played.
Played on radio.
Look at Joy FM. Let's take Joy FM, because that's Joy FM. I can take Joy FM
Yeah.
and talk about Joy FM. Joy FM goes a long way to play a lot of Ghanaian music in their programming.
Sure.
And nobody can tell me that they don't do that. They do it. You listen to Joy from the Super Morning Show. It is when it comes to us, those of us late night people,
Yeah.
who are into, what we call specialist music for certain class of people.
Western music.
Oh, go with
African.
Specialist music for a certain class of people once a week,
Yes.
because you can't have the same thing every day. So once a week, Uncle Ken comes in and gives you something else that just to break
Exactly.
the mold.
We get it.
And so you cannot say that the stations are not doing. The tree speaking stations play 80 to 90% of Ghanaian music, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can't tell me they don't. So when it comes to the media, as far as I'm concerned, are doing their bit. It is up to people who who need to put resources in to help the policy makers that we need to attack, and not the media.
Chief, I'll come to you. Before that, let me take this message from Mr. Akunu Dake. He says that I'm listening, pa.
But he
Great
will
discussion. My special regards to all my friends in the studio. Tell Kwame Rasta, the German, that I miss him, pa.
Mr. Akunu Dake has done his bit. He just handed over to you.
Yeah.
There's another message here. Says a child is born with a clean slate of mind into a norm, a stereotype, a societal practice, a way of life called culture, religion, and tradition. These practices, both good and bad, form the base foundation of this child. They grow, go to school, and experience the world for themselves. The realities of life then set in and contest these stated above practices. They refuse to be dogma to these norms. They evolve and learn and relearn new findings that best fit their current reality. However, the revolution of evolving these practices is seen and termed as foreign influence. Culture, tradition, religion is for the people, not the people for it. It must evolve to sustain it. A revolution the elderly is not ready for, but causing changes regardless. Is either this reality is recognized now to catch up with the stated above norms, or be left behind and call it losing our culture, etc. The world is changing and nobody can stop it. This is from Nana Kwesi. Wow. Another one says one big area we're not talking about is our language. How can we reduce the literacy to one's ability to speak English? Teachers still tell students not to speak vernacular. We must have standard designs even for our architecture. What makes a building design Ghanaian? Let's address our language bankruptcy. Every German child can speak German. Every French child can speak French. How about the children we are raising? My thoughts, Moses there. Yeah, so these are some of the messages we've received so far. You can send those to 055 111 997 055 111
Ich bin sehr hungrig, aber ich habe nicht genug Geld.
In the meantime, you can also join the discussion by phoning in. Call us now on 030-2216-541 030-2216-541. You can call now, Chief.
Yes, before Chief comes in, you mentioned German, that every German child can speak German.
Yes, the person sent in.
Why is that so? Why is it that every German child can speak German?
Because German is the official language of Germany.
Yeah, and all Ghanaian children cannot speak Ghanaian because Ghana does not have a common language.
Indigenous
We
language.
were
have
colonized.
an official language.
Yes, we don't. But the Germans, they have it. So when you tell me every German child can speak German, I said to myself, now then. You don't have yours.
There are compromises to be made, and that was the point that one of the messages was making, that culture is for the people, right? Not the people for us. I mean, what we call culture did not emanate from a bunch of elderly people sitting somewhere and saying that this is the 10 commandments of your culture. It is sacrosanct and eternally, right? It is people evolving ways and means to cope and adopt, with the realities of their time. Some of it we inherit as heritage that speaks to our identity as our people, but some of which must evolve.
I'm not cutting you.
But you
Let
are
me pick
cutting me.
Somebody on the phone now. Good evening.
Good evening, Chief, and good evening to your listeners. My name is Yao, and I want to quickly touch on the bit of culture and identity. I've realized that as a people, we have a misplaced identity, and like it or not, we have to go through what the newly industrialized countries, the BRIC countries, for example, the Indians, the Chinese, Singaporeans, etc., what they went through. There has to be a deliberate effort to sort of open up our heads and put an identity inside. So Kwame Nkrumah created what we call the ideological institutes, of course, for a different purpose, but they sought to send the same signal. In China, right from the time you are born to you are growing up and all that, they sort of indoctrinate you to understand your identity and all that. And this is what we need as a people. Because right from the era of slave trade through colonialism, post-colonialism, the white man has been our God. And everything from the white man is taken as the gospel, or is taken as right, from religion to food to everything. And so if we need to get back to ourselves and understand who we are and the glory we had, then something deliberate has to be done. Otherwise, like Uncle Ken said, we'll keep going around, we will not learn anything because we keep hearing the same complaints every day. My little humble suggestion. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much. Let me come back to you, Chief Moment.
Yes. So I was just trying to take it from where the conversation is heading, the fact that compromises must be made, but then we must also retain certain particular important elements of who we are as a people. I mean, we talk about national development. Obviously, because of bread and butter issues, when we think of national development, we're usually talking about economic development, so that people can get jobs and have good, food and, not aspire to be Germans, but to be Ghanaians here, right? But there are other facets of, of culture, because, man shall not live by bread alone. So who you are as a person should form part of your development, understanding your identity and contributing your quota to the global tapestry is very important, right? So that could also be an element of development. So you can have economic development, social development, cultural development. Those are all angles of development. But for me, the important point that I really want to make, which the last speaker alluded to, there's the software and there's the hardware, right? The hardware is pretty much useless without the software. It is the software that would show you what you use the hardware for. We can look at culture in a number of, as an aesthetic, the food we eat, the clothes we wear, all of those things as practice, what we have, our naming ceremonies, traditions and all of that. But we can also look at culture, very importantly as attitude, the way we think and behave, which is really very important. When we begin to look at culture in that way, then you ask yourself, how are we cultivating particular thought patterns and behavior patterns that will aid our development effort? When you think of, let's say, the Japanese, you think of a very disciplined people. When you think of Germany, you think of a culture of efficiency, right? If you think of America, you think of a culture of innovation. When you think about that, what kind of, I say a brony baby, how is our attitude, facilitating our development as a people? When Singapore needed to develop, Lee Kuan Yew and the likes understood that they had to change the software of the people. They had to make the society more efficient and more disciplined to cut out the excesses. That's where the famous, if you spit on the road, for example, you'll be accosted and punished, right? So as a people, what kind of cultures are we evolving as human beings that is aiding our development agenda? So that's one of the most important things that we talk about. Let me give you a basic example. We talk about something as simple as the culture of maintenance. That's, as a country, we are not able to maintain anything. All the facilities that we build over the years, we kind of like run them down, right? So we're always spending money to renovate, and we're not really maintaining everything. The economic cost of the lack of a culture of maintenance can go into billions of cedis. Otherwise, monies that we could spend in continuing to further our development. So how then do we address something as basic as a culture of development? How do we inculcate in young people growing up the idea of ownership? And this comes down basically to an important aspect of even who we are as a people. Africans are communal people, right? Wealth is held within the community. The community is more or less like a social system where the things that is owned by the community is owned by the community. So it takes a village to raise a child. That's how we evolved as a people. But how are we transferring or reflecting this in our 21st century lives? So much so that if you see you're in a community or you're in a school or you're in an office and you see someone using a facility in such a way that it is going to run down the facility, how responsible do you feel in calling that person to order? Or do you just sit back and say, oh, this one, it doesn't concern me, it's papa dear, buying dear? That attitude that we have, that but this is not your father's company, this is not your father's job, it's his government's job. So it means that what doesn't belong to you personally can be run down, can be used anyhow. So that's an important cultural element that we should think of as a people, the culture of maintenance. And what can we do? What thinking, what processes can we put in place that right from the very beginning, when it comes to these kinds of things? Culture of sanitation, for example, there's a reason why we have certain cultural practices. Sanitation, preserving the environment. You didn't have to go to the farm certain days because, they had all sort of myth around it. But ultimately, we know that they were to preserve, the agriculture of the community. You didn't fish certain days so that the sea can replenish itself. How are we adopting these important elements into our overly consumptive environment that right now is about what you can get, right? People are doing galamsey because look, it's about what I can get now. So the economic consequence, the environmental consequence of galamsey is not something that we feel collectively responsible for, because at the end of the day, everyone, each and everyone for ourselves and God for us all. So for me, the most important point I want to make here is that beyond the aesthetics of culture, the most important for me is really the human software and what thinking is being put in place and what training are we giving to our young people, particularly from education, to develop the Ghanaian that is needed. In fact, what kind of Ghanaian do we need for our national development efforts? Have we thought about that? And how are we putting in place measures to cultivate that Ghanaian? When you begin to think of these things this way, then you think of your educational sector. How is your educational sector producing the Ghanaian that you want? Your media and the things that you are producing. How is the media? How is the things that the citizen is consuming producing the Ghanaian that you want? You talk about the idea of the American dream, that when you're in America, you almost feel invincible, that I can do anything, I can achieve anything, at least within some particular bubbles in Silicon Valley. So you realize that over years, some degree of innovations have come from America. The last time I was telling a friend, Uncle Ken, and this is how I'll end my submission, right? Look at Ghana and all our potential and our resources and our 30 plus million people. You put it on the table and you put one company like Apple and the value that they have created and the impact they have made in the world on the table. And I ask you, Uncle Ken, between Ghana and its people and its resources and its history and its heritage and a single company like Apple, God say, look, I'm giving you one of them as my gift. Which one would you pick?
I'll take Apple.
Why? This is one single company that one single person has dreamed and created so much value. So the point I'm trying to make is that we are in a community where we are in a society where we are in a country.
Please clarify, not the fruit.
We know.
Kwame,
Yes, the company.
an apple a day keeps the doctor
away.
away.
Okay.
So my point is that if one person has, or a group of people have been able to create so much value with just one thing, that thing is almost more valuable than your entire country, then it tells you that we really have to re-examine what we are doing as a country. And I'll end by saying that it always comes down to leadership, number one. And the little things that we are doing here is to probably begin to change political leadership. Uncle Ken talked about why are they not getting funds. Every ministry is not getting enough funds to do anything, right? So at the end of the day, it's about priority. It's about what you prioritize and what you think is the best way to create maximum value. If we understand that our culture, creative and arts industry can create maximum value that will benefit all other areas, then that may begin to push us to prioritize those sectors, so that in the limited funds that we have, we can start dedicating these things to these sectors so that they can have those ripple effect to change the entire economy that we are looking forward to. But people should look up to for my major keynote address on our culture industry.
Fellow
next
Ghanaians.
year. It's next year March. The details will come.
Research. So why did you ask me? Why didn't you ask the policy man?
Uncle Ken.
All right, Showbiz A to Z on Joy 99.7 FM.
Yes,
Okay, guys, we have Akunu Dake on the line, and he is the CEO of Heritage Development. They are into culture and tourism development and event management. Let's speak to him. Good evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kwame Dadzie.
Yes, sir.
I'm here to meet you.
We will meet very soon. We've met before. We've met before.
Yeah.
All right.
Great. I think great minds in the Chief Mubin has just produced a cultural policy right there. I mean, and the contributions by the colleagues in the phenomenal, great, absolutely. From Dr. Commey to Nana Owoahene, my elder brother, Uncle Ken, the new German Kwame Rasta. You floored everybody. Anyway, thank you very much. But I think that what Chief Mumin has just done, and of course, augmented by others, has been very useful. Just 2 points. The first thing has to do with the cultural policy of 2004. I'm not sure whether any real evaluation has been done in respect of the cultural policy of 2004. I don't think
that we're able to implement 5%. That wonderful document.
Yes.
5%. Look, I mean, it's useful to move forward. But I also think that it's not all the time that you reinvent the wheel. We didn't implement 5% of it. People in policy, people in governance, how many of them ever saw that cultural policy? I can tell you. So we did not do that. So it's good to put in a new cultural policy, and I'm hearing the zeal and so on and so on. But I think that it's important for us to always make this type of assessments. My view is this, and I agree completely with Chief Momin and what some of the colleagues they have said. It's an issue of leadership, the will. The will. Look, artists are producing works of art every day. There are studios, there are galleries showcasing art every day. Individuals on their own. Playwrights are doing their writing, like Chief Momin and others. Musicians are creating music all the time. Writers are writing. Fashion designers are designing, and so on. They are doing it on their own and making whatever they can make within their own space. What this country needs, and from my own experience in dealing with people in governance, is that there is no political will. No political, when I say it bluntly. We're doing cosmetic things, we basically are adorning things, we are dealing with issues from the peripheral. Culture and the arts has not been mainstreamed, and the political will is just not there. And I think that Dr. Kwame has mentioned it from his research and so on, from his thesis and dissertation and so on. So there is, but I don't think we should give up. I don't think we should give up. I think that many of us working from privately and working in the industry should continue to put on the pressure as the media is doing. Look, the media has done a lot. There's no radio station that doesn't have a cultural program or an arts program. Every weekend, sometimes almost every day, there's some discussion. So the media has done its bit, has done quite a lot. It's up to the politics, to the politicians and the people in leadership to say that, look, this sector is so important. Let us see how we can create value. At least to create, as they typically would say, an enabling environment. That is all we need. That is all we need. An enabling environment. Because this cry has been going on for far too long. It's become so hackneying that, it's almost impossible, for us to comprehend why we are treated this way. Why? Then, of course, we talk about our own problems in the different sectors and, all the different attritions and fighting and so on that sometimes just create problems for our own selves. And I think we should improve our game. We should improve our game. We should put our best foot forward. We should be excellent in what we do. We should stop all this petty fighting and so on among associations and groups and so on and so forth. It doesn't give us a good image. Attacking people and doing all kinds of things, Ghanaian high life, Nigerian high life, what is one is better, those type of stuff. Those part of stuff are not germane to issues related to culture and development. I think I'll end here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Akunu Jake. Thanks so much for your submission. We're still here on Joy 99.7 FM. This is Showbiz A to Z, and we have some 40 minutes to go. And you can also send in your messages via 055 111 997 055 111 997. Yeah, so we're still here, but let me go straight to, and even before I do that, let me come to Kwame Rasta. Kwame, your mic is on.
Herr Rasta.
Yes, danke schön.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've listened to Akuno Dake, we've listened to Chief Mumin, and what do you make of their submissions?
Yeah, I mean, if Uncle Akuno Dake speaks, and that is after the man who I hope his body of art, which is the Work by Jeke series, will be listed at the UNESCO's that place where they want to put high life. Hopefully one day they would put Ogbejeke there too.
Mansa World is getting there.
Okay. So then there really is not a lot to say other than to appreciate the role of cultural influences. Like, in Ghana today, people actually mistake a word like Tofiakwa to be a Ghanaian word. And Tofiakwa, because at the height of the infiltration of Nigerian movies, that bit of language became like a slang in our streets here, and people believe that it is actually a Ghanaian word. I have walked past a church that somebody was incanting loudly. I suspect he believed he was praying, and I heard a word like boyaka. It is not funny when we let some of these influences into our space, and then we suffer transgenerational consequences on the cultural front. So when we are at this point where it makes a lot of sense to me personally that, growing up, I always called my father Papa, and I didn't know why. I thought it was odd because everybody was calling his dad Daddy or Da, or I also was saying Papa, until recently, when I found Christ, and it has become very necessary for me to pursue my German ancestry. Then I'm like, oh yeah, in Germany they call their daddies Papa, So again, I wish all of you all the best. But if things had worked out well, I wouldn't have ended up with you guys.
But I would say that when it comes to the African influences, from a Pan-Africanist point of view, sometimes you may not overlook because we've really influenced each other more than because of cultural proximity. So maybe Tofiakwa may not be much of an issue. I know they're using as an example, but when it comes to African influences, we also have to look at it from the Pan-African agenda, that it may not necessarily be sacrilegious to be influenced by Togo or Cote d'Ivoire or Nigeria, because really we come from different parts of Africa, what we know as Ghana today. So I also want to say that there's that
Chief,
context.
stop
of
that
influence.
thing on sacrilegious on that thing. Stop Yaka. When is when which Ghana language we talking about?
No, I know, but I'm just saying about when for example, the Ghana.
All right. Joy 99.7 FM. Getting heated in here. Showbiz A to Z. It's been a conversation on culture and its impact on national development. My name is Kwame Dadzie. I have in the studio Kwame Rasta. And I also have Chief Mumin, Nana Otuo Owoahene Champon. We have Mr. Commey. We have Ken Adi, Uncle Ken. But let me give you this info. Yes, you are brave, you are confident, you are determined, and you deserve this. Treat yourself with a bottle of Puma drinks. Yes, Puma drinks are specially made for you. So enjoy Puma drinks in cola and orange. Puma drinks got you and your whole friends and family covered. You deserve to be celebrated every day. So grab a chilled bottle for proper enjoyment. Last, the hustle will pay off. Puma drinks, a whole new vibe. Best served chilled. For bulk purchases, call 0262 351 251. Puma drinks, another quality product from Casa Preco Company Limited. This advertisement is FDA approved. And another message from Nana Kwesi, and he says, Ghana, we are known for mismanagement and using the young and yet to be born's future as collateral for loans. All right. We're still on. So Showbiz A to Z, and the agenda that Showbiz A to Z is having is to discover or to see how best we can use culture to influence national development. Let me come to you, Nana Sase. Your hand has been up for ages.
No, I feel the generalization hurts us too much. Sometimes people want to talk about some of their personal traits. It's fine. But don't just generalize it. We are not known to do that. Some Ghanaians are known to. Some Ghanaian leaders have done specific things. But doesn't mean everybody, has the habit of doing that. Mismanagement and all. Sometimes people want to pass Ghana for this. They be Ghana for Ghana phobia. It's human nature, really. I believe that whatever it is. Two, Chief was asking the kind of Ghanaians that we need to facilitate this kind of national development we're looking for. Realize that Germans speak German because they have it as one language. And so, as they are growing up, they are brought up to think as Germans. Now, Ghanaians do not have one of language, but the beauty is we are Dagomba, we are Ga, we are Asante, we are different things. Can we bring this? Yes. So can a child be brought up knowing that I am an Ekuapim? Among us, we respect elders. Trust me, among the Dagombes, they respect elders. Among whichever cultural grouping in Ghana you pick, we respect elders. So you realize that some of these cultural traits happen to be universal. By that kind of valued upbringing, when an Ekuapim man grows up, he is patriotic. When anybody grows up in their mother tongue, let me say grows up in their mother tongue, he's brought up in the ways of his people, in the traditions and the customs of his people. He learns to tolerate other people. He learns to be respectful of other people. I believe that if we're able to do this, it would go a long way to help us. Knowing that I speak my Ekuapim very well. I am competent in the English language. However, if you want to speak Ekuapim with me, you know that I know it. If you want to speak my Asantichu with me, you know I'm on top of it. If you want to read my Fanti Bible with me, you know I'm on top of it. And so this is one of the ways in which we can become the kind of Ghanaians that we're looking for, Chief. I strongly believe so. If we are able to start from the home, leadership is not only at the national or political level. As a father, what kind of leadership are you providing for your household? That's the basic unit of society. As a priest, as an imam, what kind of leadership are you providing for the congregation? As a studio manager or as a stations manager, what kind of leadership are you providing for your staff? What are they looking up to? As a teacher, what kind of leadership are you showing to, your students? I believe that leadership should be taken at the various levels all the way down to the family. And then we can start pointing fingers, at others. Please, when you are pointing the fingers and you are very confident, point all the five. Sorry, Sabitically, very culturally clean, no, nothing intended. Kwame, why? Watch my face. Point all the five.
All right.
Because if you point this, the rest now. So I believe it's a very good way, in which we as a people can do things like that.
And fantastic point. But one other thing that NASA is doing is to help grow the culture of writing or the literary arts. Nana Sase, you've been doing this for some time now, and you were coming up with a program which is called the Writer Date Conversations with Nana Sase. What is it about?
Okay, so the Writer Date is a series of creative sessions that I decided to start off with this year. We're having 4 editions. We've had the first. The second is next week, 22nd of this month.
Saturday?
Yes. So we spend exactly 4 hours. 4 hours, 2 hours a break, 2 hours. We have conversations. The first edition was essentially conversations on your creative process and your creative triggers. This second edition is also going to have conversations. It's going to have performances from me and other creatives. We're going to have an open mic segment, and then there's a unique Ghana bar. where you get to
open
drink.
mic segment.
Open mic.
What is
By
that?
the open mic, we simply mean that we give room to anybody in the audience to come and share their creative work, from music through poetry to stories.
Oh, wow.
Whichever way you choose to express yourself, we have time in there where you can share your work. And the best part is when you're done, you receive constructive review from whoever is going to be there.
Wow.
And then you have a drink Ghana where we share communion wine.
Communion wine.
Communion wine, the sobolo, the asana,
Oh, okay.
all of that. That's the communion wine.
Okay.
And so these are the 4 things that we're putting into this second edition. I decided to do this because I realized a lot of young writers, I want to learn, I want to do this, I want to do that. We have these events so that we can come in and have practical conversations, practical sessions, hands-on approaches. Also provide a base to network with others who are doing the things you're doing. Somebody might not have seen Chief Moment before.
Oh, yes.
He's a very expensive personality to look
Very,
for.
very expensive.
Yes. So I bring Chief to write that date. How much does he cost?
He's very
You know,
expensive.
so that we get to
In
have
the
some of
spirit.
these interactions, some of these conversations. You never know who is going to be there. We are looking at our creative economy, which has not been tapped into. And so you come there and Doc will be there, and now I'm committing them. They'll be there. I'm seeing it live on. I have witnesses. Uncle Ken, they will all be passing through. Let's meet such people. Let's share our creative work. Let's network. Let's connect. You never know what comes up out of it.
Where is it happening?
It's happening at the Foundation for Contemporary Arts Ghana, FCAGH,
Okay.
within the premises of the Du Bois Memorial
Oh,
Center.
all right.
Hey, that's
All right.
still there.
Du Bois, yes. So FCA is in the Du Bois Center. It's next week Saturday, exactly 9:30. Start work.
Is
9:30.
is that the reason you don't have any herb
Who
themed-
qualifies to be part, please?
any herb themed
Who
activity on the day? Because you mentioned wine, you didn't
We'll
mention
be brewing
herb.
prekese,
Please, who
asa-
qualifies
a lot
to be
of
part?
things. Mint.
Nana
Who qualifies
Asase.
to be part
Yes.
of it? So anyone who is a writer, anyone who has interest in writing, in reading, this is Accra is World Book Capital for UNESCO. this
Okay.
year.
Okay.
And so in promoting the spirit of reading, writing, this is why we are doing
Any
this
specific
also.
age groups?
It's open to students from tertiary, above tertiary,
Okay.
all the way down to senior high school. At least students from senior high school upwards.
Okay.
It's open to all of them. Anybody who is interested in writing, picking up the creative writing process, who wants to be taught, who wants to be mentored. On the day we'll have a registration desk. People who want to register to learn tree, please show up.
Wow.
We will we will take this up. People who want to have indigenous knowledge conversations, we will sign up to have some of these sessions, because these are things that
Okay.
we do when
So
we are not
how
doing
much do we pay to
poetry.
be part of this?
How much do you pay?
Yeah.
It will be too expensive to pay for it. Chief has given us a lot of money to fund this. And so 100 Ghana cedis for everybody else who is not a student. But for students with ID, if you're a tertiary student, you have 80 cedis. With your ID, SHS and below, 50 Ghana cedis. Everybody else who is not a student, 100 Ghana cedis. Let me add only
Okay.
0.00.
Okay. How do they get to you?
How do you get to me?
Yeah.
Okay. So to sign up, you call 0547 918817. 0547 918817. The person
right.
to pick up will be Priscilla,
Okay.
and you get signed up for the writer date.
Thank you, Nana Asase.
Thank
That
you
is
very much,
Nana
Kwame.
Asase's contribution.
And you will be there.
Yes.
Chief, everybody
I'm
in here.
always at your
Thank you
program.
very
So
much.
yeah, now let's settle with Nana Otuo and then Mr. Commey. So we've talked about this whole topic, how to use culture to influence national development. Now, policy aside, what do you think is the way forward? How can we as a people in this country help use culture to effect national development? Let me start from you, Nana Otuo.
Thank you very much. Believing in ourselves, accepting ourselves before others can believe in us or accept us. That is a basic for all of us. We must be proud to be Ghanaians and who we are. Whatever we are doing in every small way that we find us, everywhere we find ourselves and everything we do, believing in yourself, accepting yourself first before others can do. And like others are saying, the Germans who speak their German, Indians and so forth. I happen to be in the community and I saw this young man who wanted to speak English by force with the daughter. The daughter was trying to climb something and it was getting bad. And to say that stop or whatever, say, drop down. Can you imagine? Why are you forcing yourself? Meanwhile, you have to start speaking Ga with that little boy. We need to accept ourselves. Are we not proud of what we're doing and all that? You see, so every area, I go anywhere and introduce myself from Asante. So when even they are calling Ashanti, I said that no, it is Asante. We don't have Ashanti in it.
Nana, is it Asante or Asante?
Asante. Thank
Asante.
you.
Asante is more anglicized version.
Yes. Asante. Another. So these are petty things that when we start at our own small way, wherever we find ourselves, we will be able to make a mark. Let me use this opportunity. Today is World Art Day.
Yes.
Every 15th of April, named after Leonardo da Vinci, and then celebrated UNESCO, UN, and then the International Association of Arts, which is the world's umbrella body for the visual artist. So Ghana, we started celebrating it in 2015 and initiated by the Ghana Association of Visual Artists.
Interesting.
So this is the 8th edition we're celebrating. Today, various areas, artists are doing various fantastic things around, advocating that every home, every office must own an art piece. So Joy, begin to own some art pieces, some sculpture pieces somewhere, some painting and so forth, to promote and project what we do. My last thing, Kwame.
Okay.
Where is our National Art Gallery?
The museum. The museum is there.
I'm saying National Art Gallery. I didn't mention museum.
Okay.
So we don't have. Where can we find the works of Oko Ampofo, Sakakwe, Kofi Antobam, Amon Kote? We are losing. We need to use the art to record and document our history. We need to begin to establish a national gallery for contemporary art. Kwame, it is very critical where students can go and learn, researchers can go, and we can house the works of these great people that I've mentioned.
Cha Omanyaba.
Yeah.
Mr. Commey, so we're looking at how we can use culture.
Please, doctor.
Doctor. Oh, sorry. Dr. Commey. Dr. Commey, policy, cultural policy aside, how do we use culture to influence national development?
Okay. First of all, I think I'll start from the very beginning of my submission. Let the media have an agenda, and what the politicians will say, propaganda. Let the media have an agenda. Let the media be at the back of all the key public institutions and stakeholders that have been mandated by law to promote culture. Let follow them and critique what they are doing, ask the questions all the time. And I think that that is very, very important. Kwame, the other thing is that we need to consider culture in our governance system. The other time I was engaging school children, I was asking, what is the cultural implication of the title His Excellency? The cultural implication of the title Right Honorable Speaker. In your own language as a Ghanaian, how, when you mention His Excellency, what is the reflection? What do you get? Honorable Member of Parliament. And when you understand this concept of the honorable, and we still have this perception that politicians are on the ladder of corruption, for instance, then how do you interpret the cultural reflection of honorable in your language? Because if an Asante man will say Onyonyam for and no Kwai for, what does it imply? And if that translates to the titles we are giving to some leaders, are their behaviors in line with how we interpret these concepts in our culture? So we really need to look at how we can situate this Republican governance system within our culture, where every leader will be responsible to the people. Now, we have been influenced to a certain level where the extended family system is no more. Chief Mumbai was talking about some of these things. I was thinking about security. Today, everybody lives in fear. Because when you are even in your home and you hear strange noises, your only safety is you need to call the police, right? And pray that they will be there in time before that person breaks into your home. But the first question is that you have neighbors. What is the relationship? We have now become so individualistic that today, even when you are in the midst of people, you are still not safe. Because when something is happening to you, definitely if you are not careful, nobody will come to help you. Because we are all on our own. We have been taught to believe that, everybody for himself and God for us. So that family system, we need to look at it. Our chieftaincy institution is now not playing a powerful role as we used to play to support our governing systems. Today, chiefs are not able to even control their immediate environment. When Galamsey is going on there, illegal mining is going on there, it is just a few of them who can control the situation. If they don't bring the army from the barracks here in Accra, the community will be there and the environment will be destroyed. The water bodies will be destroyed and all that. The final thing I want to say, Kwame, is about the economy. Now, we are losing faith in our own selves. We don't believe in anything we produce. We don't believe in anything. And today we are struggling. Government is even struggling to get, is it $3 million? $3 billion. $3 billion to support the economy. Because we are over-relying on the West for almost everything. And so our currency is not doing, it's not competing with anything. If we believe in our culture and we believe in ourselves and we start believing or relying on what we produce and what we do, it is going to also help the excessive importation of things from the other side of the world, and that is also going to help our economy. Thank you.
Okay. God bless our homeland Ghana and make our nation great and strong.
About us. I am one of them. More viewers now. More saying, more cancer. Think of I can promise. I'm going to go for me. I'm going to for me. No, I didn't want more outside, more cancer. More they say again for people just to hate us. When I'm about message promising a leader. Oh, I got that. It's a medical demon. Or say, when the promise in Agada or more, and all the multi team, no woman collection, and yet trendy, and I'm a media snail, and to put me Cassatia and media host for say, they don't know what they are doing. Who medical to me? No, the same media, and I'm a medical, the same media, medical, media, honor. She said, I'll go Angel FM, TV3.
All right. So the voice you just heard is two voices actually. Two guys. One looks like King Promise, and the other looks like Kwame Eugene. So there is a new trend in town where some look-alikes or artist look-alikes are moving from one place to the other. They've done videos, sometimes performing at events and singing the people they claim they look like, singing their songs. Now, some people have raised concerns, including Medical, who did a video to say that you guys, you can't just go around and be saying that I am Medical Junior, I am Kim Promise Junior or KD Junior. So they should stop. But these guys, they don't really understand. Maybe, according to them, they are doing this for life. Look-alike job for life. And is it right? The question is it right for them to go around or go about doing this? Is it impersonation? We spoke to a lawyer on Wednesday, and he said that they can't be sued for doing that, especially if they try to pretend to be the original artist. Should we be worried about this, Chief Moment?
I mean, initially when it started, I thought it was really much ado about nothing because look-alike parody, it's a staple in the entertainment business. When you go to Europe, or any of these countries and you're walking the street, you see the Michael Jackson look-alikes and, people like that. But, those people do not necessarily threaten in any way the viability or the livelihoods or of the popular stars, because these stars are so popular, so big that obviously when you see a Michael Jackson look-alike, So I mean, initially I thought it was really much about nothing. I thought these are things that will come and go, but it would appear that these people are being given a certain degree of prominence within what is already a very small industry that probably we have to pay attention to people who may say that no, this is not right. I mean, if it were a very, very big industry, where these guys are up there, then maybe it's not, it may not be much of a big deal as it is in other parts of the world. But these guys are being granted interviews, they are being invited to perform at shows I hear. I think that in that regard, it no longer becomes just, someone on the street trying to pretend to be a Kwame Eugene. It's someone trying to take up the character of a Kwame Eugene or the character of a Kim Promise and leverage, on their brands to build their prominence. To that extent, I think that it is cause for concern, and I think it's important that we're having these discussions, that if they want to do it, then they must confine themselves to the insignificance of the street, if I may put it that way, and not try to create a reputable brand out of people who are already active, with those brands, So those are my current views around the issue.
Kwame Rasta.
I don't know if it's the Ministry of Sanitation or Ministry of local government, but I strongly believe that these good people need a job, and I don't know if again the police would have to arrest one or two for impersonation, because you see, this Easter, did you hear of any events, any shows that people were going to perform? All our musicians are on life support or very broke, and you, because you look like somebody with some jaw, you are performing and collecting lorry fare at the expense of the person. Listen, people need to be picked up. I would have prescribed another way to sanitize the whole system, but time no day like that.
Uncle Ken.
Nothing more useful to add to what you said.
Thank you.
Nana Sasi. Oh God.
Clearly this is criminal.
Yeah.
This is criminal. To deliberately try to impersonate another person. You're not the original. Why do you show up and try to be the original? Well, somebody could say he's just a fan of the person, but this is a case where you're performing at a show and probably charging something.
Oh yeah.
It's criminal. It's criminal. I don't think it's proper.
Okay.
That's one of the reasons why I stopped writing I stopped being very active on my blog years ago when I started it.
Wow.
I realized people were going there, picking stuff verbatim and not giving credit to the source. So I decided to vary the content that I put on the blog. Yes. Even in performance, people would go pick the video because you're performing Net Purity and someone is word for word. So I decided, okay, so in performance, I have control over the work. I can truncate the piece, I can add whatever element it is to it. Now let's see who has the original.
Nana Otuo.
Be the best you can be. It's serious, and it's part of the culture thing we're talking about. Where did this come from? How did this start? The quest to drive big cars, quest to do affluent things and all that. And a lot of people, young people in our society, are doing similar things. So what we're talking about is for everybody, our youth. Please work hard, believe in yourself, accept yourself as who you are, and be the best you can be.
All right, thank you, Nana Otuo Owoahene Champon. Let me come to you, Dr. Commey.
Yeah, Kwame, I think that what I wanted to say has been said by Nana Sase already. I mean, this is criminal. I mean, if you say you want to look like, the moment you say you want to look like, that is impersonation. I want to look like Kwame Dadzie. I want to behave like him. Now I look at how Kwame shaves the hair and all that, and I go and do same. I try to costume myself like Kwame when he's on stage, and I do his songs. I mean, how can somebody, and take money for it, right? I don't think we need to really encourage.
But some have also said that it is done elsewhere. You know, people imitate Michael Jackson, Elvis Presley, Madonna, and all those people elsewhere in the world.
They do those things
for money.
For money, because you know, in the literary space, for instance, I mean, Kwame, you are aware that even in the academia, you are able to photocopy, okay, somebody's work for the purposes of academic work. My first degree, I did theater production, theater directing. I directed Yawasari's Anansi in the Land of Idiots, right? And I need to make copies of his published work, and I just needed to acknowledge him, and I produced it. So what are the purposes of those imitations and all that people are talking about? Is it for money? Are they doing these things for money? Are they doing this for other incentives and privileges?
Okay.
Or they are just doing these things for fun?
Well, that's the big question to ask. Yes. Thank you very much. Showbiz A to Z, Joy 99.7 FM. It's been really insightful. I've enjoyed the conversation so far, looking at culture and how it influences national development. Thank you very much, Uncle Ken. And let me say a very big thank you to you, Nana Otuo Champon. Nana Otuo Owoahene Champon. He's the chairman of the Cultural Forum. Nana Sase is a poet and also a member of the Folklore Board. Thanks for coming, Kwame Rasta, and then Chief Moomin. Let me also say a very big thank you to you, Dr. Phil Richardson Commey, and he's the director in charge of policy planning, research, monitoring, and evaluation at the National Commission on Culture. Thanks for coming. A very big thank you to you, Philip Nye, producer of this show, together with Anita Tay, Oliver Fangnan on the social media. Show is sponsored by MTN everywhere you go. Superstar multi-food drink, and they are from Casa Preco Company Limited. My name is Kwame Dadzie. We're back